Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and today we're going to take a look at DesertTech's MDRX Micron. This is a version of the MDR rifle that has come out just in the last couple of years. If you're interested in a full mechanical teardown of the MDR and how it works and what makes it interesting, I have a previous video on the full-size MDR, which I will link to at the end of this video. Take a look at that for the mechanical teardown. We'll skip that for today and focus on specifically what's different and interesting about the Micron. So the concept, of course, is take an already compact style of rifle, a Bullpup, and give it a really short barrel and make the thing really, really compact. So overall, what we have here is 23.5 inches, which is, by the way, almost as short as an SP5 with the stock completely collapsed. This is in shooting configuration, by the way. There's nothing to extend, nothing to unfold, nothing that can extend or unfold. But in this tiny of a package, you still have an 11.5 inch barrel in 5.56. So there are, this is an interesting way to exploit the compactness of a Bullpup, to really double down on it by giving it a short barrel on top of the Bullpup configuration. And what it gives you is just an extremely compact package. Now, because this is based on the MDR, which was originally built in 308, this is still a fairly heavy gun. It's dense. It weighs more than you would expect just from looking at it. It comes in at a little under 7.5 pounds. So, you know, this is the weight of a full-size rifle, really. But it's pretty well balanced because it's very compact. There are a couple of other things that have changed here. So originally, DesertTech came out with the MDR. This is the MDRX, and they've made a number of important but relatively subtle changes to the MDR that turn it into the MDRX platform. And these include things like they have added some drain holes to the gas block. They were doing water immersion testing and found that the barrel and gas system didn't drain, or the gas system didn't drain as well as they would like, so they added some vent holes for it. They improved the polymer formulation. I think they actually added a little bit more glass to the glass-nylon mix, which makes all of the polymer components a little bit stronger. They redid the trigger geometry a little bit to give it a little bit better of a trigger pull, and this does have probably the best trigger of any factory Bullpup rifle. It really is a very nice trigger, on par with what you would get in a traditional rifle layout, which is pretty cool. Now, one of the other things that they have done is it's really a retrograde step, and that is to make these guns side eject only, or to give them an option to be side eject only. So we'll take a closer look at that in just a moment. In fact, why don't we just go ahead and take a closer look at this in general, and let me show you what's a little bit different about the Micron. This whole thing really just is an adorable little tiny gun, and I want to reiterate again that the actual chassis of the gun is the same as the standard MDR. This is a barrel and handguard swap that turns it into this Micron platform. Now, I know one of the first questions people are going to have is, if it's available in 5.56, what about 300 blackout? This sort of package would be fantastic for 300 blackout with a nice suppressor on the end. Well, there's a bit of a hitch, and it comes from this being based on the original 308 MDR platform. The receiver comes out to here, which means the gas block really can't be any farther back than exactly where they've put it right here, and this is too far forward, at least as far as DesertTech's experimentation and R&D has been going. This is too far forward to run reliably in 300 blackout. It'll run in 5.56, but not 300. So that's something that they recognize would be ideal, to be able to build the Micron platform like this in 300, but it's not something that they have been able to do yet. One of the other things that they offer on the standard MDR that they do not offer on the Micron is the forward ejecting module. This was really, to me, one of the highlights of the MDR platform, still is one of the highlights of the MDR platform, that in its original design, it actually ejects cases forward. It'll basically bump the ejected case into a little holder here in the side, and then when the bolt goes forward, it kicks it out forward out of the gun. And what this means is that you can set the gun up to eject either left or right side, but you can then also still switch shoulders without any problem of eating brass. Now, they came up with a much simpler, just plain side eject mechanism, and that's what's on here right now. It's just simply open, so the bolt reciprocates back inside there, and it just knocks cases straight out the side of the gun. And they did that to reduce cost, to simplify the gun. It sounds like the forward eject mechanism is sort of a choke point in DesertTech's manufacturing process. And by offering a side eject module for people, they were able to basically ship more rifles to more customers. As far as it goes on the Micron, in theory, there's no reason that it can't work. However, it requires some R&D and some development on the gas system, because the forward eject module requires a bit more energy out of the action than simple side eject. So they haven't yet put in the time, or had the time available, to get the gas ports tuned just right to allow forward ejector use in the Micron. So for the time being, the Micron is offered only as a side eject gun. And it's worth pointing out that the bolt mechanism inside is different for forward and side eject because of the ejector and extractor locations. So if at some point they do offer the forward eject module for these, it will require replacing the bolt and probably bolt carrier components. Now, the side eject can be swapped from side to side. So the receiver, again, same receiver as is standard, just with a mounting point for this. You have a flat cover on one side, and you have the ejection port cover on the other. When I originally got this from DesertTech, it was set up to eject out the right, and I just swapped it over. That's a nice, easy, simple swap. The handguard here is pretty minimalistic. There's not a lot of space to work on. They basically made this thing about as short as it could be made and still function reliably and work with the original receiver design. So the handguard's just this little tiny thing. We can simply pop out that pin. And we can pull off the handguard. So you've got a couple of M-lock slots if you want to mount anything on there, like a light, single pin, and these two rails that hold it in place. Those rails slide into the metal upper receiver there. You've got a nice chunky flat hand stop, well, a hand stop on the inside so that your hand doesn't go out in front of the muzzle, and a nice just a front stop on the gun you could push into a barricade or any other sort of shooting support. And then the barrel comes out just like on all of the other MDR platform rifles. Again, I'll leave this for the video I did previously showing how it comes out, because that hasn't changed at all. One other thing worth pointing out, they did switch style of muzzle devices. This is just a simple flash hider, and I really appreciate that. It's a short barrel that's, because it's a bullpup, really close to the shooter's face, and I really would not be interested in having a muzzle brake or a compensator on a gun like this. This flash hider does a pretty darn good job at hiding flash, and I don't find this thing to be particularly concussive as a shooter. Really no worse than a short-barreled 5.56 in a traditional format. So I'm pretty happy with this muzzle device. Now, you can take this off and you have standard, I believe it's half 28 threads for a suppressor. They did actually put on their own new style of reusable crush washer, which is kind of cool. So if you're interested in suppressing these, that is certainly something that they had in mind. As always, you have an adjustable gas port, so you can drop that down to suppressed use if you put a suppressor on it and you're getting more gas pressure on the system from the can. Now, let's go ahead, let me put the handguard back on, and let's take this out to the range. In fact, let's take it out to a two-gun match and see how it does. So the setup on our first stage here is you have to shoot prone from the tires, you have to shoot standing at the cones. You can only engage one target from each shooting position. There are 7 total, so we go across the range one way, and then turn around and come back, and you have to neutralize each paper target. So you have to be pretty good at keeping track of what target you're shooting at. And in fact, I lost track here. I had to go back, count how many positions, how many targets, and okay, we can get on that one. And of course, you have to be able to make confident hits past
no-shoots on virtually all of these targets. So this is actually a really cool, challenging stage. Some, like that end target, have very small presentations. You're looking at a serious penalty if you hit one of the no-shoots. And the question here is, how quickly can you move in and out of position, acquire your sights, and get good hits? And I was actually extremely happy with how well I was able to do here. So of course I'm using all 20-round mags. Not that the MDR won't take standard 30s, but I'm using 20s, so I do have a reload in the middle there. It's a super comfortable, easy shooting, very pleasant rifle, and I did very well on this stage. In fact, I ended up taking 3rd place overall out of 44, which was awesome. All right, now our other rifle stage in this match was the long range stage. We've got targets at 100 and 200 here. You can see the 100-meter targets. There I am hitting those. You have to hit each of the 100s twice and each of the 200s once. The 200-meter targets are a C-zone IPSC and a mini IPSC, and they are totally dirt colored, and they are essentially impossible to see. They're on the berm up behind the shorter range targets. Now, the shooting area is this diamond outlined by barrels and the yellow bars. You have to stay in it at all times. Knocking any of those wood slats down is a penalty, a 60-second penalty. And you have to make these target engagements, 6 hits total, from each quadrant of the shooting area, and then once more from the one you started in. So it's a total of 30 hits required. And I finally here realized that I ought to be shooting the long range ones first when I don't have all the dust in front of me. So we'll pick up the long range hits. You see me basically groundhogging a bit from time to time where I look up over the top of my scope. I have an unmagnified aim point here, which was, frankly, I still have a hard time believing that I did as well on those long range targets here as I actually did. They were extremely difficult to see. And yet, on several of these quadrants, I was making first round hits on them, which I think really speaks to the shootability of the MDRX Micron. It was just a really fantastic rifle to be using. Now, unfortunately, so I get my first hit here. Yeah, unfortunately, my shooting streak really kind of comes to an end on this quadrant. I finally lost track of where one of those long-range targets was, and trying to find it, and I end up dancing around it for quite a while here. One of the standards for a two-gun is that we do not ever paint targets, and sometimes, like this, that results in targets that are virtually impossible to see. Almost there. There we go. And I have to reload one more time with 20 rounders. At any rate, the Micron, frankly, I was amazed that I was able to get these hits. A lot of people would think that a little short 11.5-inch barrel is not going to be able to shoot at long range like this. The truth of the matter is, yeah, it really can.
I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This was really a lot of fun to take out to the match. It was more successful, certainly more successful than I expected it to be on those long-range targets. Ran completely flawlessly. I've taken this out to the range a couple of times now. This is a loaner gun from DesertTech, but it's performing really nicely. Certainly better than I expected. When I got my hands on it at SHOT Show, I thought just the compact package was really cool, and I wanted to try it out. Having now actually done some shooting, it's a compelling little tiny rifle. This is something that's not going to be appropriate for everyone's needs, but if this is the style of thing that you're looking for, I think DesertTech is definitely something worth taking a close look at. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.